Great, thank you very much, Hannah. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the planning meeting from Town Council of the 30th of June. Thanks everyone for joining tonight. My name is Steve Tanner and I'll be chairing this evening's meeting. As ever, we want to make our meetings available to as many people as possible, regardless of where they are. So we use a hybrid setup of here in person in Town Hall and online via Zoom. For those in the room, a little housekeeping, emergency exit is in the rear corner of the room to the right, and the assembly point is in the car park. And toilets can be accessed at the end of the corridor on the right-hand side, or there is an accessible toilet to the right of the lift. For panelists on Zoom, please use electronic raise hand by clicking on the participants button at the bottom of your screen. For those in the room, please raise your hand. Attendees on Zoom, please post questions to the Q&A board. Attendees' names will become visible as the questions board for the record as your question is answered. For those attendees in the room, again, please raise your hand. Tonight, Jane will clerk and Hannah will manage the questions board and participant settings. The meeting will be recorded for minuting purposes, and we also live stream to our YouTube channel. As we are not quorate tonight, whilst councillors' comments will also obviously be taken into account, the final decisions and comments will be sent by Jane and myself as chair of the planning committee. Okay, so moving on, item number 2 on the agenda. Any questions, comments and information from the public and or councillors? No, great. Item number 3, to agree the apologies of absence received. Hannah.
We've received apologies from Fiona Barrows, Polly Lamb, Philip Campagna. Yeah.
Great, thank you very much, Hannah. We have to vote on that, do we? We can't vote because we're not quorate. No,
so
excellent.
We'll note them.
Item number 4, any declaration of any members' interests? No, excellent. Moving on, item number 5, to agree the minutes of the meeting held on the 8th of June 2020, which I've got here. Again, we can't vote on them, can we? Because we're not quorate. So we'll put that to one side. Item number 6 on the agenda, to consider major plan applications received as per appendix number 1. And at that point, over to Jane.
Thank you very much. So the first application that we're going to discuss is number 9 on our list, and that is the So the first application that we're going to discuss is item number 9 on our list, Warminster Road roundabout, which is the roundabout by Asda, which hopefully you got that time now that I've turned my microphone on. Okay, so the application description is for the erection of 3 advertisements. This is actually an application that is dealt with by Somerset County Council rather than Mendip District Council as a planning authority, because it's actually a highway application. And you can see the positioning of the proposed 3 signs, very small, just here. And the proposal is that local businesses will be able to advertise in this blank space here, which is why you don't actually have any detail of the actual adverts at this point, because they will change on an annual basis. You can see the size of the sign, so a metre across by 760 in total height, and then 500 is the height of the actual sign bit itself. I think the main consideration would be, or one of the main considerations is that the signs wouldn't impact on visibility, and as it's an highways application, you would hope that that had all been taken into account. So I suppose the other consideration is whether or not you feel that it will have a wider visual impact. We have seen the comments from the Civic Society, who felt that they would be unwarranted clutter and distract drivers who should be focusing on directional and safety signs at a busy roundabout. I think they're also concerned about the impacts that it would have. They say it's close to the Rodder Nature Reserve and the land reserves for future expansion of East Hill Cemetery. And the impact that that would have on the surrounding landscape. So, any comments?
Thanks, Jane. Anyone got any comments on? No? My only comment would be, I don't really have a problem with it, quite frankly. I mean, I drive past that roundabout at least 4 times a day, I reckon. I think that actually might make it look a bit nicer, to be perfectly honest with you. It is very, very overgrown, and not with anything quite nice, with what I would say. I guess the only question I have is are they going to sell that advertising space, or will it be?
It will be sold, yeah.
Right. So as a town council, we can't use it to promote our own events.
I suppose we could ask them that, but the accompanying documentation specifically says that it's for businesses to pay to use the signs, and it will be done on an annual basis. So
Fair enough.
And I assume we won't have any say about which company gets the advertising, which maybe somebody we don't necessarily approve of, perhaps. Yeah, I'm not crazy about it. I was first worried about the size of the things and being a distraction, because people already complain that the roundabout's overgrown and they can't see what's coming. So perhaps if they put these signs up, they might maintain the roundabout a bit more so they can show off the advertiser. But yeah, they're not very big signs. I think it is a bit crass, really. I note the points made by the Civic Society about being next to a nature reserve or something. I don't really get that, but 2 minds about this one. But I don't see why we can object.
No, not really.
Sorry, Helen, please ask some questions.
Oh,
So Helen has put in the Q&A.
Helen.
Who maintains the roundabouts? RE Grass Cutting.
that would be Somerset County Council contractors. I don't know who the contractors are. I'm not sure that it's the same as Mendip. I don't think they use ID Verdi, but it would be up to Somerset County Council.
Thanks. Yeah. I guess if they're going to maintain the roundabout a bit better, then it could be a reasonable idea. But I mean, the Civic Society seem to think it could create a precedent as well, don't they, in other roundabouts in the town.
I'm sure that will be the case.
Already, there's
hundreds all over.
I've heard a suggestion there's going to be one at the top of the ski slope as well from Selwood Parish Council. So I think they've got one to look at there as well.
Yeah.
So I guess this is a way of Somerset earning revenue.
It's a county-wide thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it will be. Every roundabout will have one.
Yeah.
I think Helen's asked if she can speak.
Yeah. Why don't you let her in?
Yeah, I've just promoted you, Helen, so you should be able to speak now.
Yes, thank you. I can't seem to turn my visual on, but oh, there I am. Can you see me?
Nope.
No.
Oh, okay. Well, all I wanted to say was that Mendip did a thing, didn't they, last year, and it had mixed reception about whether or not to cut the grass and do the verges, clear the verges in various parts of the town. And we've had some complaints, for example, at the Mount. And I wondered if Somerset were doing the same with this roundabout, because it seems as if it used to be kept better. It used to be maintained better. Well, what depends what you think of the word, when I say the word better. And now it's kind of being left, the grass has been left a lot. And I thought they were doing it on purpose for wildlife. And I actually quite like it, although, you know, you've said, a couple of you have said that you thought that it looked very messy. I I can't remember the last time I went down there, but I don't think it impacted on the visibility as far as I could see. And if we were to have these adverts on here, I think they would keep the grass shorter, and it would very much change the nature of the roundabout. And I am a bit concerned, as someone else said, the Civic Society, that it's just going to change the character. I mean, it's not great having Asda there anyway, but if you're coming from the other direction, from out of town, you do see quite a lot of trees, and then you've got, you know, East Hill on your right and the Rodden in front of you, Rodden Reserve in front of you, and I think it will change the character of the roundabout. Having said that, they're not very big. And there is already one on the road, the B3092. Someone's already put one up. It might be unofficial for Lily's Cider, I noticed, and it was quite small. And I thought to myself, do you know what? I'm not really sure I mind it if it's that small. It depends how much raised they are. So I'll have to have a look at Jane's diagram again to see how raised high up they are. But yeah, I'm sort of a bit ambivalent about it, really. I can see.
They only stand about 1 metre tall, Helen.
All right, so it's quite small then.
It's under 1 metre, yeah.
It's like about the height of one of those kind of arrow kind of signs.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is, on that roundabout, there is a tree in the middle, but the tree's sort of been swamped by brambles and stuff that's growing around it. That sort of, and although the visibility coming into town on the 362 and going out of town on the 362 is fine, but if you come into that roundabout from Asda, you've got a job to actually see anything coming round from town into Asda until quite late on. So I would think at some point someone is going to come along and do something with that anyway. That would be my. I don't know. I think if they put these on and look after the roundabout, it could actually look quite nice and still have plenty of greenery there.
Okay. Yeah. As I say, I'm ambivalent. It has come into my inbox, the SCC inbox, but I looked at it quickly and I thought, I'm not really sure that I mind at the time. Yeah.
Just another thought about the approach from out of town inbound. It's no bad thing to let drivers realise that they are moving into civilization and they need to take the foot off the gas.
True. Yeah.
One, maybe, so I suppose firstly, I'm not sure that as the planning authority, county would agree that the signs would have that much of a visual impact, you know, on the surrounding area. I do understand that it will look different, but maybe thinking about Helen's concerns and a compromise might be, okay, we don't object to the signs, but actually, could you leave the central bit a bit more wild, so you still got a wild
Be happy with
there,
that.
maybe not just quite as high.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good compromise.
Okay.
I'm in agreement with that.
Yeah.
You can't vote because we're not enough of us,
Yeah.
but we'll do something on those lines.
Let me just make a note.
Great, thank you, Jane. Well done, voice of reason.
Okay, so the next application on our list that we're going to discuss is number 13. And this is Lloyd's TSB. And it is for, Lloyd's TSB Cheap Street Froome. It's for the installation of 2 internally illuminated signs above the window on both elevations, 2 internally illuminated projected signs next to the doors, 1 window vinyl and 1 address panel next to the door on the marketplace elevation. So you can see on the screen here, I've just put up the images of the existing signage. And I wasn't sure when I looked first whether or not these signs are currently illuminated, but actually on closer inspection, I don't believe they are. And these are the existing drawing elevations, and the ones at the bottom are the proposed elevations. So you can see that they're not actually proposing more signage, but the signage that they are proposing is bigger than the existing, I think particularly on the front elevation along here. So this sign will be internally illuminated, as will this one. Just one thing that I did notice later on is that on the actual application form, there are a series of questions about the adverts, and one of them is, will any of the signs project over a footpath? And they have said no, but actually these will. So I will just note that in our response. And they also ask if they're replacing existing signs, to which they've said no, but I think
It's pretty clear that they are.
I think that given that it's yeah, they clearly are. Anyway, so and again, I'll just make reference to the Civic Society, who are saying that the eternally illuminated signs within a conservation area are not acceptable. It's quite a long response, so I'll just pick out the text. I think the bit they're also concerned about is this sign here, the centrally mounted one they refer to. They're saying that it will interrupt the flow of the facade and detract from the architectural unity of the building. And the current positions are more than adequate to inform the public what the building is. And I think they're also concerned about whether or not this will. No, they haven't said that, sorry. So enlarging the signs, they say will harm the appearance of the Grade 2 listed building. And yeah, it's just that they're concerned about the impact that it's going to have, one, on the building, and two, the wider area. So I guess it's, how you feel about those signs being illuminated. I don't think any of the other banks, at a quick glance, have got illuminated signage on them currently either, just for information.
Gentlemen.
So it's basically replacing what they've got there with bigger, perhaps brighter signs and this window vinyl, that pink thing that's in the.
This, yeah.
I don't know what maybe we could do without that.
Fortunately, because that's inside the building, it would be difficult to control that.
So is it a listed building?
It is a listed building, yeah.
So do they need listed building consent?
They do need listed building consent. I think there should also be a full application as well, but
Or maybe we throw it back to the conservation officer. I don't have a huge problem with it, as long as they're not that much brighter, really. We don't need to know where a bank is in the middle of the night, as long as the ATM is
Could they be
lit
switched off at some point? I mean, I don't know,
on a timer.
3:30 when they close.
Yeah. So,
I don't know. I mean, 8 or 9 o'clock at night. I mean, I would have thought.
I mean, we're pretty fortunate at town to still have 4 high street banks. I mean, most towns are losing banks.
yeah, I mean, absolutely. We could ask that the illumination coincides with the opening times.
Well, I don't think the opening times. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe even.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would have thought after 6 or 7 in the evening, there's no need to have them illuminated. Certainly certainly one at the front.
Save the carbon impact of the electricity being
Well,
burnt to them.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, lights going on all night is, as Andy said, burning electricity needlessly. But apart from that, I haven't,
I actually found the elevation B cleaner in the new version because they're getting rid of those little bitty bits above the door and above the other window.
yeah.
No objection from me.
It is a small sign, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, given the
Not
facade of the
really,
building,
but
yeah.
They are.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you just thought it'd be loads of TSP sign.
Would we want to say subject to the conservation officer's
Absolutely.
comments? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so subject to the conservation officer's comments and a suggestion about because I did check through all the paperwork, there's nothing to say the hours that they will be illuminated, so
Right.
I think that's good.
Yeah. Excellent, thank you.
Okay, so the next one that we are going to discuss is number 21 on our list. And it is 24 St John's Road, Frome. So this is a resubmission of the original application, which was withdrawn. And it is an outline application for the erection of one attached dwelling house. The plan for the original application, I've put it there so that we can compare it. And what we said, we objected to the original application on the basis that we felt it was an overdevelopment of the site. And because we didn't feel that there was actually enough room for a single dwelling to go here. We're also concerned about the parking, because if you've ever been around St John's Road, you will be aware of how difficult it is to even drive around there because of all the parked cars. So on that basis, the applicants withdrew the application, and you may also recall previously when we discussed this application, it is actually for the owners of the business in town to provide accommodation for their workforce. That's the reasoning behind the application. And here you can see the revised application, and because it is only an outline application, it will actually only, there's no real detail to accompany the application. And as you can see now, what they're going for is an attached dwelling with the same parking arrangement. And just so this plan isn't actually for approval necessarily, because it's an outline application, but this gives you an impression of what it will look like. And here you can see the space in which it will go. Now, we did say previously that we felt that a smaller dwelling may be more appropriate, but it does appear that it will be a larger footprint because it will be attached, so you won't have this gap separating the two, and it's the same distance from this boundary. I think in principle, in terms of how it would look, it would make more sense for it to be an attached dwelling, but the key question is still whether or not we feel there is sufficient room for a building to go, dwelling to go there and provide sufficient parking.
Thank you. Vince.
There's a comment here about the access to the front door being down a dark passage. Is that evident from the pictures that are supplied?
Yeah, well, yes. I mean, this is only a sort of representative drawing, but it doesn't appear that the front door would be on the front elevation.
Yeah.
But the existing property does appear to have the door
On the side.
on the side.
Is that a problem? I don't see that.
No,
It's a private house. It's not,
Yeah.
you probably don't want to be building dark public passageways now, but on a private house, that's
yeah,
for them to deal with.
that's what they want to do.
Mm.
Okay, yeah, sorry. Helen.
Hi. If it's one of these houses that I think it is, I think they're notoriously badly insulated. And is it going to be renovated at the same time? Is it going to be kind of, upgraded? Jane, I'm sorry to say I haven't studied this
It's
application.
just an outline, Helen, so we don't really know.
Oh, okay. It's just that it might actually improve the existing property as well as provide another house. And in some ways, it's more energy efficient to have an adjacent property rather than a gap in between them.
Mm.
So I can't really. I have to say it's in my new Somerset County Council ward, but it's not a road that I know ever so well. I kind of know of it. the houses do appear to me to already be quite close together, just as an impression, but I don't actually know this corner. So I can't comment any further.
I mean, the new, if it were approved, the new dwelling would obviously have to be built to the current building regulation standards. So, you know, that in itself would have to be well insulated, and yes, it would improve you wouldn't, the old house wouldn't be the end of terrace any longer. So
external wall, wouldn't
yeah,
it?
You can see that they've replaced the non-standard construction with a brick built on that, which some of these previous public authority housing around Frome hasn't been made of. What, I can't remember what they call it now. It's there's a name to it, like Cornish.
Yeah.
And the one on the right and one on the left, the white ones are probably still of that, but people have replaced these with brick. So hopefully that one's improved a bit. And again, hopefully the new one will follow that.
Oh dear, it's a tricky. I mean, part of me really it's sort of what they're trying to do is commendable. It is so tight around there, isn't it? I mean, that is the main thing, and the footprint of what they're building is no different to the previous, is it?
it's bigger. It'll be bigger.
Yeah, I mean, so the footprint of the
Across here, no, it'll still be
yeah.
as tight to the boundary line
Yeah.
as it was.
as it was
it was
before.
before.
So our sort of initial comments about a smaller
Mm.
dwelling.
But I think Steve said it's going to be a 1 or 2 bed rather than a 2 or 3 bed. So, you know, from internally and potentially from a car parking point of view, it's fewer bodies being accommodated.
Yeah.
It's difficult because without the full application, it's
It is difficult to assess with it just being an outline application. Like you say, with the smaller number of bedrooms, it does reduce the parking requirement. Although, you know, I'm not sure how many bedrooms are in number 24, whether they've got sufficient parking, and you know, potentially you will still have a knock-on impact on the parking. But I mean, in terms of,
there isn't sufficient parking around there, full stop, is there?
No.
I mean, that's the thing.
no,
And who would determine that? Highways?
that would be the highways response. Yeah, they'll probably just put their standing device, which will be in line with the car parking standards for the amount of bedrooms to the dwelling.
I where I'm coming from is part of me doesn't want to just say object, but there isn't. I sort of want to see more detail to what they're doing and how they're going to address the car park.
What is the basis of this outline? So if we say we don't object to the outline, presumably the detail then comes back to us, does it?
So if an outline application is approved, they will then have to submit a reserved matters application, which will show the full detail. So that'll be the floor plans, probably a more, I would hope, a more detailed, because what you haven't got shown on here is actually where the property boundary will be. So here it's obvious, you know, that's going to be that will be associated with that. So it would give more information, but with an outline application, I think it is difficult to tell. And what we can tell, what we know is where the footprint of the building will be, and we've got an indicative plan showing how it could look.
Helen, did you want to jump in?
I just wanted to say, I had assumed that the photograph that's on the screen was a wide angle, but now I've realised it's on a bend. It's not a wide. It's not a wide angle, is it?
No.
So the house on the left with the white walls, am I looking at the side of their property or the front of it?
That's kind of the side.
It's the side of their property. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
the front door is as well. I think you're right.
Okay, so it is going to be quite close up to that next property then. I mean, they have to leave a certain amount of space. Right now, I'm starting to get a grip on it. I do think it is going to put a lot of pressure. I mean, it's going to basically, all those hedges are going to come down, and all that front area is going to be used for parking, basically, isn't it? Right. Yeah, I am starting to wonder if it is a case of overcrowding then.
Yeah.
Yeah, so as Helen says, I mean, to create these 2 parking spaces,
The hedge has got to come out, hasn't it?
yeah, so this hedge here would have to come out, and for the parking spaces for the new property, this hedge here would have to come out.
And it's
I just don't know if it's a valid planning reason to say that it's overcrowding. I don't know if we would get
Well,
it.
it would, overdevelopment of the site would
Overdevelopment,
be a
yeah.
valid reason.
But given how those houses are laid out, that looks to be the sort of next door's upper dormer window is their primary window, probably in the main bedroom, isn't it?
Mm.
Yeah. Seems a bit close.
Mm.
Mark, any pearls of wisdom? I think we are coming down on overdevelopment again, aren't we? We need more detail.
Yeah, we need them to prove how it's going to work, because at the moment we don't
Yeah.
believe it.
Doesn't look like it's going to work.
Yeah, okay. So
Okay.
we could object on the basis that we don't feel that there's sufficient information to be able to properly assess the application. However, on the basis of the information provided, it does appear that it will be an overdevelopment of the site. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so the next application on our list for discussion is number 25. And whilst this action isn't actually within the parish of Frome, it is right on the boundary. And given that it's an employment area that serves Frome, we have been consulted on this application, which is Malthouse Lane Business Centre, Malthouse Lane at Commerce Park. And just to orientate people, this is the Frome flyer, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. And then this red line area is the development site. So the description for the application is industrial development of 61 business units arranged in 9 blocks. I won't read the full description about the use classes just yet. And we've seen this application previously. And here you can see the layout, the proposed layout of the units. So that they're referring to them as 2 different areas, area E1 and area E2. We originally objected to the application, put quite a long set of comments through, but essentially we were concerned that, if I just go back to the previous screen, that the uses that were proposed would actually have quite significant noise impacts on the residents in Colway Lane here. And obviously the residents agreed with that. So this is the revised application. The proposed layout hasn't changed from what it was previously. What has changed is that these 2 bigger units here will be within the uses that you can see on the screen now. I won't read them out because it's so long, but essentially these will be for industrial processes and storage and distribution, whereas previously they were including a B2 use, which is general industrial. So that can include things like car repairs, manufacturing, builders yards, more quite noisy activities. And over here, they have removed. So what they're proposing that they're used for will be what they call offices to carry out any operational or administrative functions and storage and distribution. So I guess they'd be smaller units where maybe somebody who's got an online business can store their stuff and then send out online orders and that kind of thing. But what has been removed as well are what they call in industrial processes. Again, they can be the slightly noisy activities. So I think that in itself will take away the potentially noisy uses within those buildings. I think the Civic Society were on the next page acknowledged, acknowledged that element of it.
They've also put the restriction, didn't they, on the, sorry about that.
The HGVs, they're saying they put time restrictions on it, haven't they?
Yes, yeah. So that's another thing that they've agreed. Our other part of our objection was about the lack of solar panels on the roofs, because when you've got a large expansive roof, it seems to be an ideal opportunity to make use of solar. So on area E1, on the two main buildings, they are proposing 200 solar panels. So that's only on the two big buildings, not on the smaller units. I believe when we asked them about it previously, it was more of an issue because there would be so many different occupiers to actually manage the solar panels on each individual building. They felt would be difficult to deal with. And the other thing that we were concerned about was the upgrading of the footpath that runs behind. It's actually a route technically that can get you into town, so that people who want to walk or cycle there can, but you would only want to do that on a good day in the light, because it's not lit, and if the weather is bad, it's very muddy.
Very muddy.
It's very muddy. Unfortunately, they're not saying that they'll do anything to that. They are going to be upgrading, what's the road called? I wrote it down, Colway Lane. So they are proposing to put funding towards enhancing Colway Lane. But yes, sadly, not the path that we had hoped, because actually that's the path that would help promote active and green travel.
Any comments, anybody? I've got loads.
Yeah, I mean, the active travel piece to me still remains key.
Yeah.
The other thing, area E1 is this one big building, is that correct?
It's 2 units.
Yeah, okay. And that can still be used for industrial processes in this application?
It will be used for, so it's one big building, but it compromises of 2 units, and that will be used for industrial processes, storage and distribution. But it's actually not as close or direct to the residential as this bit.
Drop off the bottom of that.
It just disappears with it. Yeah.
I wasn't sure if there was residential stuff.
There is residential there, but it's not. Oh, there's no good point into my screen. You can't see it. So I think these were the ones that were of the main concern, just because they're so, it seems to come round and they're closer to the residential.
They're only about 40 or 50 meters.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I mean, we need the commercial space as much as we need anything else in town, but it's getting that active travel link out there, given that we're still struggling to get a bus service out there as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think so when the entire industrial or commercial site was given an approval that there's one outline that covers the whole of Commerce Park, and that actually sets out the uses and all of the conditions basically that they're attached, even though it was 15, 20 years ago. So, as the applicants have pointed out in their covering letter, they could just stick to the original in terms of the sort of timings and the construction statement. But they have amended it because obviously, they don't want to cause huge noise impacts for the people of Colway Lane. And I think what they've done, that will certainly help with that. But at the end of the day, we would wait for the comments from the environmental protection team to say whether or not they were happy.
There is a bund, isn't there?
There is a bund, yes. This is the bund.
Yeah, can we raise that or make it thicker or whatever we need to do to help? Because I see even if we do have light warehousing, they'll still probably be using a forklift that's going to be beeping about.
Yeah.
So that's the only, no matter what we say, you can, if it was all offices, then there probably wouldn't be an objection. But I know that Atchison are doing a couple of running at least 2 shifts, so they're open between 6 a.m. and 7 p.m. probably before and after with admin and tidying up. So there is a use that goes on about quite late there.
Can you tell me what a bund is?
A bund is a really high mound of earth,
Okay.
which has basically deflects the noise, yeah, or absorbs, yeah, or a bit of both maybe.
Doesn't give it to your line of
Yeah.
wave.
Yeah, to me, the footpath is, I mean, do you get section 106 on commercial?
The problem is because because of the original outline application,
Yeah,
any section 106 would have to have been paid at that time.
yeah.
So you couldn't go back now and ask for section 106. I mean, it would be a nice thing that in the same way that they have agreed to upgrade Colway Lane.
Yeah, I think we should ask for a
Yeah.
contribution.
Yeah.
Even if they don't want to upgrade the footpath, I think we should ask for a contribution so that we can work with whoever is the authority to upgrade that footpath, because it is a direct link from that whole Stonebridge estate, isn't it, into Commerce Park, which the amount of people that live there. The only thing I have to admit, I didn't read all of the documents, so I'm sure it's in there somewhere. Is the electric vehicle charge points and any bicycle charge points? Are they on a diagram somewhere?
I couldn't see that they'd been included, and I do think that because we asked that question previously, and they were assuming that the occupiers of the individual units would deal with that themselves, but I couldn't actually see anything on the plans. But maybe I didn't.
Okay, I think we
missed it.
should question that as well, just to make sure that there are EV charge points and or electric bicycle charge points. I know there's bike storage, isn't there?
There's bike storage, yeah. So the bike storage is just here, and then there's an area over here which serves these blocks. There might be another one, but I can't see it.
But from that, I think there's.
Yeah, I mean, I think we. So in terms of the uses and the impacts that will have on the residents, in the same way as the Civic Society have said, that seems to have dealt with that objection.
I would agree with that.
And obviously, we welcome solar panels.
Very much so.
But we're still disappointed that they haven't done anything about the footpath.
Yep.
And as you said, EV charging.
Well, I'm sure it's in there somewhere. Just
Yeah.
haven't got around to seeing.
Okay.
Great.
Okay.
Anything else, chaps? Great. Okay. Anything else?
The only other one that you may want to discuss is number 31 on our list, which is 2 Cranmore View.
Oh, yes, yeah, okay, yeah.
Okay, so this is number 31 on our list. The address is 2 Cranmore View, and it's for the erection of a new 2-storey and single-storey extension to the south and west elevations. So the reason that we've highlighted this one for discussion is because of the concerns that have been raised by the Civic Society. So you can see here, this is the application site. This here is the existing element of the building. This is the proposed side extension, and then you've got this extension to.
That's the rear,
That's the rear,
Mm.
yes, yeah,
that's the side, isn't it?
yeah. So this is the side, and this is the rear, and this is the front. So when I looked at it initially, I did think that actually that because the extension, 2-storey extension, will be just around here, and the impact that it would have on this property in terms of overlooking. But you can see on that elevation, there aren't going to be any windows there, so there won't be any overlooking. It's really a question of more overshadowing and how that might feel if you were in the rear gardens of these 2 properties. And I did, apologies, this is from Street View. So this will be the side where the extension will be going. And so you can see the proximity of those houses, and it's really whether or not it's
No.
not quite. So there will still be a gap down the side there.
What's that thing on the back?
That I think is this walling here, isn't it? Is it? Don't know. It's quite healthy. Yeah, I mean, did you say you had a look at it?
Yeah. Just go back to the plan again, Jane, if you would. So in terms of scale, that's coming about there, isn't it? Right, just go back to the photograph again. That's coming to there. Yeah, it's.
For those of you who can't see, Steve's pointing at the picture on my screen.
I'm just trying to work out on the scale. Yeah, I mean, I reckon it's going to come to about there.
Has anybody in Marston Lane objected?
No.
No. I mean, I think really it's quite difficult for us to assess the impact. And I think it's one of those where we would ask the case officer when they do their site visit to, you know, to
So
assess.
it's no higher, it's just nearer.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's no overlooking. So that top view, that's going to be the same view.
Yeah.
Only closer.
Yeah.
By however big the extension is.
Yeah.
So it's not actually changing the dynamic of it a great deal as far as I could work out.
What it will do is, depending on the angle of the sun.
Yeah.
Instead, we know what orientation of this is.
Well, we can work it out from there.
Yeah.
North facing.
That's north facing at the moment, isn't it?
So
If you go from there towards,
So this will be north. Yeah.
yeah.
They will lose morning sun, a little bit of morning sun in the winter.
Really see that as a big deal.
Can I comment?
Of course you can, Helen.
Jane, am I right in saying that a planning reason against this, if you were to decide it was relevant, is that if the mass is inappropriate or it is overbearing, so you've got overshadowing, which
Yeah.
it probably won't overshadow that much. You've got overlooking, and it's not going to overlook. But are there other categories like inappropriate mass and bulk, or
Yeah, overbearing and
overbearing?
and
Okay.
bulk. But it's difficult to really get a proper impression of that looking at it on the plan, and in previous circumstances where we're not sure, I know they will, but we would say that we would ask the case officer to look at this when they do their site visit.
Okay, I think it's borderline anyway. I'm ambivalent about it personally.
Not really, no. Yeah, same as Helen, ambivalent. To the case officer, I mean.
Yeah. Okay.
Mark, any?
Yeah, that's what I said, it's
Yeah,
it's no taller. or
no,
it's a bit closer.
great.
I see what they have, so.
Thank you, Jane.
Okay, so I hadn't actually specifically raised any others for discussion, and you'll have seen my notes on the others. I think most of them are okay. I think there's a tree one where I've said I didn't think the reasons were sufficient to fell the tree, but if there are any others that you want to discuss in more detail or didn't.
No,
clear
I went
about?
through, no, I was pretty.
I think
with everything.
I think it would be churlish of us to object to the servicing of the car park at the church because Froome Town Council have given them a grant to do the work.
I did think that myself, actually, yeah, eventually, yeah, and that was, yeah. Mm.
Can I say something?
So, yeah, of course.
Okay, I think I've just worked out that I didn't have. All right, now you can see.
There you are.
Yeah. You can see my messy Welsh dresser now. Yes, I was advised to put a background on recently. Someone said to me, "Don't let everyone see your messy Welsh dresser." Anyway, you'll see it was number 30, I think, that it's just a small thing that the land south of Dragonfly Close, the Mount, that is going to be developed by David Wilson Homes. They want to divert the public right of way. I can't really quite see how they're diverting it. It's only like moving it about 2 meters to the east.
It's not.
But because they haven't put on, I've said to the officer that they haven't put on the map where it is now and where they want to put it. They put 2 different maps up showing different backgrounds and everything. So I've just put a comment in, which is not online yet, saying that I was a bit disappointed. They want to tarmac some of it because it is going through the middle of the estate. I thought they were going to leave it kind of natural. And they're going to tarmac most of it, or they're going to use something, I can't remember what it's called now, but it's a sort of an in-betweeny kind of like compressed sand. There's a name for it. I can't remember what it is. Hogging, that's it, something like that, yes. Okay, that's going to be it. But whilst I put my comment in, I also said, it wasn't very clear exactly what was going on because the maps were difficult to read. But whilst they're at it, could they not make an all-weather surface going north of Dragonfly Close up to the public right of way all the way to the B3092 to encourage people to use that path rather than walk on the road? So I was just trying to sort of get something else in there. Then it's transpired from a correspondence today, just for your information, that David Wilson Homes, between those 2 sites, there's a full planning application there and an outline one, are going to give £125,000 towards some sort of crossing at the probably near the top of that public right of way. So so I was quite pleased about that, but I still think that part of that they could tarmac it at the same time, or use that Hoggins approach to do something to make that an all-weather surface beyond that actual bit that they've put the application in for. So I've made that comment anyway in my ward councillor comment.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So the crossing potentially could go towards sort of Robbins Lane, that area. Is that where it was?
Yes. I've actually. I haven't got round to doing it yet, but I've talked to all the neighbours. the guy who looks after the bit where the public right of way comes out, he kind of looks after some plants there, and the top of that public right of way. And there's a whole history which I shan't go into. And I've spoken to Anne Hills, who lives opposite, and she's prepared. She also owns some land opposite.
That's right.
The public right. She's prepared to allow a footpath to go alongside her land, which, if we can get some kind of soft crossing or informal crossing, which might just be like a hump in the road, what we could do is we could have a kind of a build out there to encourage people to come up the public right of way, cross over, go to the pavement on the other side, and then walk up if they want to continue walking up to town that way. Some people who live in the bungalows don't want to have any footpath alongside their properties or alongside Anne's wall, because I apologise to the councillors in the room that don't know where I'm talking about. I'm talking about the sort of fork on the mount where you go out of town. You can either go to the industrial estate or you can go down the B3092. So it's as you go out of town towards the B3092, it was considered by planning board that a crossing was needed around there. And I think I've worked out a scheme and a way to do it. I've just got to find a way of drawing it. And I've already spoken to Jane about this, who's referred me to Google Maps, but I haven't played with it yet. I just haven't had time. So I need to draw it up and then somehow put it towards highways. Interestingly, as a new county councillor, you might be interested to know that we've had loads of induction, but we've not had anything from highways. It's kind of they're still like in a closed room or locked in the basement or something. We don't know where they are or how to get hold of them.
Area 51.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. I'll have a look at your comments tomorrow, Helen, and I'm sure we agree that we would want to reflect.
It sounds like
those.
very good. Yeah, we'll probably mirror them, Helen.
Yeah.
Great. If there's nothing else, then next meeting is 3 weeks' time, Hannah, isn't it? You're going to give me a date, I hope, aren't you? 21st of July. Next meeting is 21st of July. Look forward to seeing you all then. Thank you very much.
Thank you.